Hey, meeting in minutes, the low dose sober crowd. For those of you who are paying attention, if you've seen anything in the past couple clips that have been sent in like short little teasers, I might not have all the preambles, but this is a step meeting today for the dual diagnosis group of meeting in minutes, LDS, low dose sober. we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. That's an amazing statement. In the room so far, I've found that their perspective is if I don't give up and just manage alcohol as the issue of my disease, that I'm fine. As long as they do that and I don't drink. And I understand that that's a good first step. But being pounded by it in the room is kind of weird. Or having people so one-sided about emotionality that they forget that thing of discipline. But that's why we're having troubles in the room, I think. Where you walk in and the room says to you, make sure that you don't open your mouth and say anything you don't wish to just be spread anywhere and everywhere, because this is not a safe space. When and if you can find friends in here that you can get along with, then maybe you will be able to get sober. Or you'll be able to do so on your own and not really be a part of any one group or a place as a clubhouse, and enjoy the fact that you have to spend all your time learning about the idea of the fellowship and what it's supposed to do from a shrink. So I think the fellowship of AA is failing themselves with the first tradition, but I'm like way behind, right? We're supposed to start over here with the step one and how our lives are unmanageable. Well, my life was unmanageable because I never dealt with the symptoms of my ASD, my inability to be socially able to relate and connect to people easily, and I struggle to connect to people. I can, but I struggle with it. My connection, though, isn't one where it's just about my lustful desire. I think there is a difference in James when he's talking about the desire, because he's talking about desire and then how it becomes sin, lust. Because lust is sin. Desire is sin. That is God good. So anyway, off of my little religious tangent about how we're, powerless over these things. I'm powerless over my mother's asphyxiation of me, which is behavioral training that terrorizes me to do what she wants me to do. Now either I become some weird criminal always looking at the edge of, I gotta break every law I can find, or I'm like me trying to obey and then being beaten down by people who could care less for me, like when I'm homeless the first time. And all I do is just refuse to talk about them and refuse to pay attention to them. And I actually do what the room always suggests, ignore them. And so while I was homeless, I ignored them, except for the guy I had to deal with, who wasn't ever my friend or on my side or on my team. So I don't really know what to say other than that. So I don't have a problem with me spreading my business. But if anyone else said that, that they'd be harassed by those elements in the room, right? Because you don't have a tradition that seems to flourish in your clubhouses. You seem to have unsafe spaces, but that's my opinion. So what I do is I've learned that my alcoholism, I'm powerless over it. And alcohol had a grip upon my life and was going to destroy me and kill me because I could not manage myself while I was doing it in the despair of trying to change. I had a spiritual awakening, but all I did is fall into where I should have been in the first place, obeying my God, dealing with my ASD, which is ultimately the root of all of my problems, and led me to alcoholism. They really hate the idea, the room and the clubhouse, they seem to really hate the idea of me being a person who's going to deal with my autism with what is high functioning. What people have been claiming for decades is somehow it helps them. Or like that famous guy in Hollywood who's like, what does he do? He goes smokes a little bit and hangs out and gets creative with him and his friends, and they make movies, and he's rich and rich and rich, and somehow it's not good for me to try to do that, because somehow I'm lost because I've been PTSD by my mother's asphyxiation. And then I walk into a room where they're not going to willingly want to speak up about how they do what they do to manhandle themselves one portion of this Christian that lives in America, that sits in the room, that asphyxiates their kids so they can have like little political pundits wherever they want, be their little rogue nation. But this is this person just venting out in my meeting all by myself, to the world. You don't have to listen. You don't have to pay attention. Because ultimately, this is all about my ASD. It's about me dealing with it and letting society know that me not dealing with my emotional difficulty to have a full emotional flow from beginning of a feeling to its conclusion, and like understanding why it is and what it is. Having this help me to do that, I don't see where you get to tell me no after I've tried Ritalin as a kid, overdosed on it, tried Focalin, tried all kinds of other remedies at 36 in my life. None of them helped, and the downstroke on those were worse than anything that I've experienced with weed up to this day. So to continue the theme of my low dose meetings, you know, I have to accept that I have something that I cannot do anything about, and that I need help manage it, and I'm powerless if I do not address the fact that I have, say, like this diabetes that keeps me from being able to function. And if I don't deal with it, I've got to be this drunk that's mad out at the end of everything, passed out, screaming its head off at everyone, scaring the neighbors and the dogs, but never intending to. So blessed are those people who have gotten a hold of that transformed spiritual place where you have an awakening and a change in your life at young experiences, because you go deal with the things that are causing your alcoholism, which cause you to be unmanaged. My ASD is that for me. Thank you today, Low Dose Meetings. I know I wandered all over the place and dragged in the world. Blessed is that. Blessed is that thing that is peaceable first and loving, for that is the wisdom from above. For those of you who worship the same book, later. And there's no judgment. Be whatever you want. Worship Odin. Worship a clock. Worship an ethical system. I'm cool. It's what we're all here for. To accept you as you are. Later.